Hey guys, and welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video I'll be going through my trades and I guess team reveal for round 9 in AFL Fantasy. I'm pretty certain on these trades comparative to that of my Supercoach trades, just because Supercoach I need to go through a couple of options which I'll explain in the video that I do record right after this, but so that video will probably have more discussion on potential trades, but this video I think I'm more certain on trades, but I will go through a different set of options that sort of during the week it sort of did change just because of the news of I guess Jordan Sweet and how that sort of did change everything up, and sort of just me jumping on the guy and just trying to, I almost did match up my trades on Supercoach and Fantasy just because I think that's almost the way to go. It's hard to want a guy to do well in Supercoach but not in Fantasy and stuff like that. But anyway, before we jump into this video, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload, and let's get into this video. So yeah, as you can see, projected score 2027, team value is in the mud at 20.15. I mean, it is so far behind the top ranked guys. If we just look, the top ranked guy is 1.4 million ahead of me basically. And just shows, yeah, the gap here is absolutely huge, and these guys have absolute money to burn. Just looking at these guys, like he has Windhager and like look at that bench. He has Closey and Graham on the bench, and he's still got Colby McKercher. And yeah, that is a huge side based on wow, that is just a huge side. Yeah, so he can basically do whatever the hell he wants, and that's why I wouldn't be surprised if he goes on and gets sort of top 80, 70, whatever that guy was, just because of his team is so stacked. But yeah, Sheasel, halfback role is gone, it seems. Seems like he's playing more midfield. I think he had 52% CBAs. He'll find it tough against Gold Coast, to be honest with you. I wouldn't be surprised if he struggles in this game and starts to really drop in cash. But he's still going to be, I reckon, top 6 or close to that from here on out in the season. So I'm going to hold, I reckon, at the moment I'm going to hold. And he could easily get that halfback role back if they decide to drop Fisher. Nick Martin, 934k, he's just now into the D2 spot. He's just doing his job here. And yeah, he could be in the midfield, but I wanted to have a more balanced side rather than 4 rookies in the midfield and a really strong back line and forward line. So yeah, Nick Martin in the back line here, just beefing it up a little bit, and yeah, he's just doing his job. I almost thought about putting a VC on him, just looking at the matchups here, and this is one thing that I was looking at was DFS and how they sort of show it now, and I was looking at this and I was just trying to see defense first position, and you look at this and you look at last 5 for GWS. GWS as the Desi kicker, it says -12, right? So that looks absolutely horrific as a matchup, right? But then you take out the wet game of Jake Lloyd, Roberts, Florent, and Blakey, and then you also take out Zorko, who wasn't actually playing off half-back, basically, for the game. And then you start to realise that taking those guys out is actually basically a neutral matchup. That's how these, and this is one of the great things about this this website, is you can see this sort of change here. And yes, I could say, yes, remove this outlier here, remove this outlier here, and Sinclair was coming back to his best, so there's so many different factors. But yeah, I reckon it is sort of a very neutral-ish matchup for GWS, so that's why I almost considered it, but then I think I found someone else to jump on as the VC, or what? No, I actually just did something, did the same thing across both platforms, and I just want to check Bont's, who's he playing? Bont is playing Richmond, so I will double check when Bont's playing, and then I will potentially change my VC, as you'll see. Sheasel, Martin, Whitfield, I think he's back to his best this week. He just basically got tagged out of the game, and Essendon won't tag, I don't think. And Essendon defensive, Desi kickers -3, I believe here. So not really looking at a VC, as they haven't had any games where they really had any outliers. I would say they're actually very, very much the -3. That is very much a representation here, a -3.25 of what they do to defensive to Desi kickers. So I'm gonna stick away from that. Hayden Young against the Swans. Swans are like +2 or something. Did I read? +2, plus 0.8, so there's no real advantage there. And I think that he could have a defensive matchup this week against Warner, so I would be staying clear of that. Or he could go on to, he probably goes on to Heaney and Brayshaw goes on to Warner, I would say. That's probably going to be the case. So yeah, there are going to be massive matchups in that midfield for the Sydney versus Freo game. Then we got Will Graham in the back line here. It should actually go like this, but in the end, it may be the case that I take Blake Howe's score tonight, because I am not confident at all of Sam Closey in the wet at Darwin. I need to just check the weather for Darwin, but I am not confident at all. Darwin weather, just because it actually looks all right, to be honest with you. So yeah, maybe I am just a little bit off from that. Humidity 60. Let's just check. They're playing Saturday night. So let's just check Saturday. 52. Humidity does ramp up at the night times from 50 to like 70%. But let's actually just check. Just want to check Sydney weather just to see if I'm well off with this type of humidity level. Yeah, it's actually not too bad, to be honest, and Darwin's just hot. So maybe we do just go with Closey there over Closey in there. If Blake House doesn't, maybe we put a line of like 70 for Blake House or something like that. But yeah, Blake House goes off, then I will take Closey off, just because it's going to be, I feel like, a tackling game and up in Darwin. So yeah, Closey will be the one off if House doesn't. If House scores well, and Reed, I still think they'll give another week, even though he's a test. I still think they'll probably give him a week in the VFL just to get back into it before they chuck him into the AFL. Given that he was off for, what's it now? Match stats here. He was off for 7 weeks. So yeah, I'm expecting him to sit a week in the twos, just to get some game time back in. Then you've got in the midfield here, if we actually do that rightly, Jack Steele, he's got the Hawthorn matchup. That should actually be a pretty good matchup. So I need to just check with Steele, Butters and Bont if I want them as my VC, as I'm probably going to stay away from Steele just because that knee is still heavily strapped, and even though he looks somewhat back to his best, he still isn't going those big scores that we were seeing here before the knee was strapped up sort of in these sort of games. So I'm probably going to stay clear of him until he gets back to a 120 or has a big, like the West Coast North Melbourne matchup, which I don't think comes anytime soon. He just had the North Melbourne matchup, so the next game I'd probably consider VCing is the West Coast matchup. Butters has no Rosie and actually has no Sweet, so he basically doesn't have a ruckman, so I'm not expecting too much from Rosie against Geelong, to be honest with you. I mean, he could just shark the Geelong hit outs against what's probably going to be Stanley, or is it going to be Blickarves and Conway? I think they'll go a double ruck against Port, who will be playing Visitini, just because Sweet is apparently out with COVID from all reports that I've heard. I sort of started tracking it around midday on the Wednesday that he was going to be out. Let me just see. At 2:40, I heard Sweet out with COVID at 2:40 p.m. Yesterday on Wednesday that he was going to be out. So the trade targets for is a little bit off in detail about that. So I still wouldn't be trading out Sweet, but I would be looking at getting in potentially a guy to cover the donut that you're going to probably have if you have Sweet effectively at R2. So yeah, I don't like Butters' chances on Friday night, given Sweet's absence. They just don't have a proper AFL quality ruck, I don't think, and that will hurt Butters. Bontempelli, so watch Butters go like 130 then. Bontempelli here, he's back. Seems to be back to his best. I mean, he only went 103, kicked 2 goals. Seems to not be having the huge mark and tackle games, but I guess his efficiency is really through the roof at the moment. So yeah, he just seems very up and down, but I think he does have Richmond, Giants, Sydney. he has a really tough run coming up. So if he wants to stand up with all the scrutiny that's going on and basically not end his season, not end the Bulldogs season before the bye, he's got to stand up soon. And Richmond is probably the perfect game to do it. So I'll look at potentially VCing him. Nick Dacos has the captaincy against the Eagles. That's pretty much a simple matchup to captain against. So yeah, he's going to get the captaincy there. Bonner, he basically just keeps on keeping on. I mean, his stats aren't perfect, but you can just see here, he's not really putting up a dead score. And his break even of 88, he's sort of just slowly gaining cash at a slow rate. So yeah, he's probably going to go in about 3 or 4 weeks' time. Maybe at his bye or something like that, as we've sort of been going through. But yeah, he just keeps on keeping on, I guess. And yeah, he is a potential sub risk, but I don't think he will be sub anytime in the next week or so. Oliver, I'm playing tonight. I'm sort of just taking the risk and jumping on. I know that he only went 65 against the Richmond, but he seemed a lot better taking 7 marks against Geelong, and seems like he's popping out a little bit more for those cheeky marks. And if he can get his tackle game back up to sort of that 7 or 8, then he's going to do really well. And gave away 4 free kicks. If he can get the 4 free kicks down, that's a -8 right there from that that spread there. The four free kicks, 4 against. If he gets that and just negates that, that's a 114, and you're already looking at that going, a couple of tackles, that's a 120. So I just feel like he could easily pop to be a 120 guy for the rest of the year, and 120 guy at 720k is absolutely huge. But I can understand waiting a week with Oliver, given the break even, as he'll be 750k. The week after if he goes 120. Roberts here, 630k, and yeah, he does have an 82 break even, so it probably is almost time to get rid of him. And yes, Rampy coming back I do think has impacted him a little bit, but I just think that I have a better set of trades, and I do think Roberts will outscore Dempsey so effectively. I just went, yep, that's a tick for that one. Then you have Jeremy Sharp, 581k. I really want to get rid of him sometime soon, but I do think that he could easily just pop out another 80, get up to sort of 600k-ish, and then trade him out then. And yeah, has Sydney this week. Then St Kilda next week, he should do all right, I reckon. And then Optus Stadium against the Pies, I reckon he could do well on the wing there, as it is a bigger stadium, so he seems to score all right at Optus. I say that as he did. Where did he might have not scored well against. When did he play the Bulldogs? I want to see, where did he play the Bulldogs? As basically that's only his only poor score, so I want to see where that was. It was round 7, and that was at Optus Stadium. So yeah, basically, but he ran like 16 Ks in that game and didn't get targeted because Luke Ryan just decided to kick it over his head. Don't know why in that game. But yeah, I think he's doing just fine at the moment. And yes, he is one that I want to get rid of, but I can't really at the moment. Gordon doing his job, and yeah, I had the VC on him, so we'll wait and see. Western Bulldogs play on the Saturday night, so I can do that. Or do I go? Don't want to go Butters, so maybe I do just go Bontempelli into Nick Dacos as yeah. Let me just see here. Opponent stats against Carlton, he goes 96 with 36 hitouts, 14-ish touches for him. So what makes him go really well against? So he gets just more kicks against Hawthorn, slightly less hitouts. And then, is there anyone that he goes in better against? Richmond, 34, basically just a lot more disposals. I'm basically toying up between, do I go Bontempelli or Gawn VC? And that may change, and I'll just have to wait and see on that. But yeah, those two are basically the ones that I'm considering. Garcia and Clark on the bench, and this is where my big problem basically is, that my bench is utter trash compared to most. Luke Jackson covering Jordan Sweet, as we heard about an hour or two ago, that Jordan Sweet is confirmed out by an Adelaide reporter that reports on Port Adelaide stuff. So I'm pretty sure that news is truthful. So I'm just anticipating that and going Luke Jackson here. If it does in fact mean that, if he does in fact get it wrong, then simply Barnett here, Jackson into the forward line, and Darcy Wilson on for probably Matt Roberts. Then Matt Roberts into defence for Closey, I would say, is probably what I'm going to do. and then we'll wait on Blake Hauser's score, etc. And then maybe even Will Graham comes into the fold here, and then we just shift a Bonner back, etc. To get Graham off, to get Graham on field for Sharp, as I have more confidence in Graham than Sharp. But yeah, we'll work that out if that does actually eventuate with Sweet. But I'm 90% confident that Sweet is out this week with COVID, from what I've heard. Isaac Heaney here doing his job. Flanders here as well. Flanders, I don't expect to have that good of a game, even though it's against North. It's just Darwin. I just don't trust the weather up there. Then you got Dylan Moore coming in, one of the trades this week, as I just think low break even. He's really turned it on since we gave him sort of 2 to 3 weeks of returning from glandular fever type. And he did score well round 1, but then round 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, he had like 3 bad games here, as you can see. In round 2, 4, and 5, with an average of like 60 across those sort of 3 weeks. Is that? What's that, 90 odd, 55-ish it looks. So yeah, I'm pretty confident with him returning into form. I know it was against Sydney. He kicked 1 goal, 1 against Sydney and pulled out a 114, and then only kicked a goal and got 116 against the Bulldogs. He's got really high marks and tackle numbers, and I just want to see, is there anything with reference to his CBA attendances that is causing this? Just because that will even shore up my thoughts even more. You can sort of see we're getting that, I believe in his year that he went big, it wasn't last year, was it? It might have been the year before. He had 16% CBAs, and that was 2022. And you can see here, he was scoring pretty well with roughly, I know that these games were bigger CBA games, but he was scoring well related to CBAs. And that's always sort of been the case. He can obviously do it without CBAs, but when he does get the CBAs, he will score well. And I think he's just pocketing sort of 30 to 40% CBAs for the rest of the season from here on out. And that'll be the reason why he does score so well. So that's why I'll be picking him up, and that's the wrong screen. So yeah, that'll be the reason behind that. McRae here, yeah, I didn't like his role last week, but hopefully he returns to a better role. Tom Powell in Darwin, hopefully he scores really well, as he sort of is needed to score well to be a top 6 sort of forward. And then you got Darcy Wilson here doing his job. Confidence with him down in UTAS against Hawthorn that he scores well and is gaining more and more cash. Hopefully he gets up to that 640k that he's projected to make it to, because if he does, then that'll be really good for just a cheeky little upgrade to in the buys or something like that to get to a primo. But that pretty much is the video there, going through, I guess, the team for round 9. And yeah, it's not looking the greatest, but hopefully we can just get something going here and sort of finish top 5k, top 6k, somewhere around there, I think, as I'm really strapped for cash. And I mean, these upgrades are Moore and Oliver are sort of very pot shot type of upgrades that I've sort of been talking about last couple of weeks. And it is limiting my potential cash gem, but yeah, hopefully we get another rookie name this week so that we can get some cash gem next week in a 1-up, 1-down, as we sort of do need it, given the fact that next week's upgrade is probably going to be Jeremy Sharp and Closey up to someone, hopefully a big mid if I can do it. But yeah, I need sort of Jeremy Sharp to go big, like an 80 or something, and Closey to go above sort of that 50 or so score. But we'll wait and see on that one. But anyway, that is the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.